Hello everybody, welcome back. If you're first time here, this is my kid, CK's Reef. And this episode is going to be all about the dosing of this tank, how I automated the dosing, and how I fail-safed everything so I have a peace of mind all the time, even with an external dosing pump that is totally analog and has no fail-safes on it like the actual Neptune dose pumps. So let's start off with the livestock. So if you've been watching, you know what I have in here. It's basically some encrusting Monteporas, SPS up top. I have a little Zoa frag on the bottom, a little Favia frag back there, and an anemone which recently moved to the back of the tank and settled in the sand bed, and since then has extended and is totally happy. Hopefully this camera can focus without it getting all bleached out. Yep, there you can see it. So it's doing very well. There's an algae blenny and one clownfish in the back, so fairly light bio load. The tank's been running for almost 3 months now, 2.5 months. And you see there's not a stitch of algae in here, which is awesome. And I like to say that's because of the carbon dosing that I'm doing, which I'm going to get into in the next episode. But for now, we're going to talk about the automatic dosing and how I did it and exactly how to program it. So you guys can do it yourselves if you ever had the thought of using an external pump besides the actual Neptune dose pumps. I personally run both. I have 2 dose pumps here, as you see. First one and second one. And then underneath, I have a cheap $75 little J-Bow 4-head dosing pump I got off of Amazon a while back, and it's working great. So let's start off by saying that the way I dose with the auto dosing is you need the Neptune Trident, which I have here. And Trident, after about 2 weeks worth of testing, has settled in, and I had a very good idea where my numbers were, and I manually was dosing with the dose pumps. I set the dose pumps over a 24-hour period to dose at first at 30 milliliters a day for each alkalinity and calcium, and I slowly bumped them up. So the average of alkalinity was 9 DKH and calcium was 450, and I settled on just around 65 milliliters a day. Now, a couple of people I spoke to on Facebook told me, oh, wow, that's really high. I mean, me personally, I don't listen or look at the numbers or what other people are doing. I go by what my tank is doing. And my tank consumes that much of the alkalinity and calcium a day. There's no precipitation in this tank. It's not like I'm cleaning this glass. It's just what it is. And the corals are happy, and that's what it is. So, since I knew that was a rounded number, at this point, I was able to program my Trident to do auto dosing. In order to do that, you go to Tasks, click on that, scroll down to Trident. You'll see Trident Controlled Dosing right there. And when you click on this function, a menu will pop up, and it's basically a step-by-step programming of a plus 40% or minus 40% controlled dosing of your calcium and your alkalinity, all relative to what your Trident tests are reading. So works very well. Took me about 2 days to zero in, where it stays right around 450 and 9 DKH every day. So it works very well. So why do I have this third pump? What makes it important? And how did I make it a smart pump? That's why you're here. So the byproduct of dosing is that you raise your salinity. And the reason is that when you use a 2-part additive, like I use the ESV B-ionic 2-part dosing additive, what it is your alkalinity is sodium carbonate and your calcium is calcium chloride. So what happens is the carbonate and the calcium is taken out of the water by your animals and by just the natural process of the tank being in its existence, and you're left with sodium chloride, which is salt. This is common in every single tank when you're dosing. There's no around it. Some people pay no mind to it, but it is happening, and it happens faster in some tanks as opposed to others. So in my particular tank, because it's a small volume of water, a 35-gallon system, and I'm dosing 60 milliliters of each a day, I'm actually raising my salinity by 0.1 every single day. So tomorrow, without controlling this, my salt will read 35.1, the following day 35.2, and so on and so forth. So in order to figure out how much water needs to be taken out of the tank, what I did was I used this beaker, which obviously has the measurements on it, and I slowly removed salt water from the tank until the screen dropped by 0.1. And it worked out where 500 milliliters of salt water taken from the tank and replaced by the automatic top-off system, which I have right here, brought the salinity back down by 0.1. So since it was going up by 0.1, I know now that 500 milliliters of water taken out every day will hold it totally stable in this system. So going back to the whole point, the pumps, how this works is, you'll see there's 4 pumps here. The first pump is part of the automatic water change system, and the second pump is also part of that system. The first pump, you'll see the green line here, draws new fresh water from the salt bin, okay, and pumps it into my tank in the sump. And the second pump draws old water from the sump and then pumps it into this waste bin here. So it's in turn replacing new water with the old water, and it's doing it at about 20% a week on average after breaking down the numbers. Now, this is where I control the salinity. The third pump is also hooked up to my sump, and it's drawing water from my sump and just dumping it into the waste bin. So by doing that, it lowers the level of my sump water, and in turn, my freshwater automatic top-off kicks on and replaces that water with fresh water, in turn bringing my salinity back down to 34.9 where I want it to be, and everybody's happy. Okay, so that's why it's set up the way it is. And let me explain to you how I make this a smart pump, the reason why you're here. So now, in order to do that, you'll see on my 4th outlet here, it says AWC, automatic water change. That's the actual power of this pump is plugged right into my EB832 on my Apex. So, in order to make it smart, what we do is, you'll see I'll click on this little gear icon, and you'll see here under control type, it's advanced. And under advanced, that gives me the option to code this outlet to do what I want it to do. And by doing that, I type if salt, being my salinity probe, reads less than, and that's the less than sign, 34, then off. So basically, if my salt level starts to drop, then just turn the power off on this thing. I don't want to have any more water changes happening, and I don't want any more water taken out of the tank. If my salt raises above 36, then also turn it off, because that means that some sort of line got clogged and I'm just adding salt water and it's not getting taken out and it's raising my salinity. So in turn, I also want this thing to turn off if that happens. So by doing this, I just made this $75 little Amazon pump an intelligent Apex tuned pump, because now it will not allow any of my parameters to fall above, fall below, or rise above where I want them to be ideally. So that's why I want to run through this and show you guys how to do this. That way, if you aren't too fast to spend the money on these Neptune dose pumps, you could do it with the $75 pump, and everybody is happy. So the next video will be all about the carbon dosing that I'm doing in this tank, which I'll go back right here just to give you guys a little preview. You'll see here that my second pump is set up. It says, well, let me get up for that. See how it says NP Bacto? That is the carbon dosing Bacto, NP Bacto balance from Tropic Marin. And it's meant to establish and colonize a bacteria in the water that strictly eats nitrate and phosphate. And through recent research and some really successful tanks and some really, really good knowledge from Lou Ekus that you can watch on Reef Dude's channel or from Lou Ekus himself, we've learned a lot about carbon dosing. And I'm going to explain to you in the next episode why it's so important to start carbon dosing right from the start, regardless of whether it's been done or not. And you'll see why. And you'll see I have no algae in this tank, and I'll explain why that is in the next episode. So thank you guys very much for coming. I appreciate you coming back to the channel. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. And I look forward to any questions or comments. There's a lot of knowledgeable people in this hobby, and I'm always open to learn and hear other approaches and everything else. So please feel free to comment. I would love to hear what you think, your take on this whole thing, any suggestions. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Thank you very much. See you soon.